Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular Board of Education meeting for the month of June. Tonight's June 16th. At this time, we are broadcasting the meeting. For those that are unable to attend from the MNC, we're turning in on the close of the end of the year. So I turn it over to our Board President, Ms. Christine Dell.
Okay, good evening. Everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first thing on our agenda are the vote for our last two meetings, the meeting minutes, 2.01, 2.02. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, questions, or discussion on either of these? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay. Just going to make sure that the board is okay. I want to adjust the agenda just slightly. We do have a presentation from Dr. Douglas about the mascot, and we wanted to do that presentation first before we open it up to our public comment. So is everybody okay with us making that change? Okay. Dr. Douglas, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the board, members who are here from the community, our student body, when we started HCSD 2030, a long time ago, one of the things that the board had talked about is that we are renovating the entire district. We are looking for that imagery, some return to school pride, school colors, that a lot of the guidance was we look at what we are and where we are and with no intent of changing. That has always been the case. School identity is also very personal, and you have to keep in mind alumni, future alumni, students that are here, and so forth. And with that, everybody understands and recognizes the school identity of the Block H. That's sort of the insignia that represents HCSD. There's going to be people around the community, you'll see that. We are the HCSD Blue Raiders. First and foremost, so that everybody knows, and this has always been the case, and we've talked about it at each of the board meetings, is we are the Blue Raiders, the image. However, we don't really have a full representation of what is a Blue Raider. Everybody has different thoughts. We've seen one, which is a horse with the Raiders over it. We've seen, like, even when we did HCSD 2030, we utilized a student's horse, Alicia, I'm trying to recall her name, but she was a senior. It's just a beautiful piece of artwork, and you've seen that on shirts and some of our brochures. But as we come to the end of this first project, we have a field, we have our insignia, and one of the things that people were starting to do is starting to make their own images of what they wanted for softball, for this, for the other. There are several images out there, but the hard part is, wait, you can't do that real quick. There's several images, and one of the things is, when we embarked upon just trying to work on this, what would be respectful of everybody as much as possible, we went and turned to some of our best students, our senior art students, who, with Mr. Hart, we had a discussion, and we told them they can look online for any of the internet images, the Raider images. We showed them a lot. They did their own research. But the one thing we did emphasize is that we somehow have to make it our own, because we cannot violate trademark or copyright laws because other people own certain things. So you can look on there, you can see there's a blue horse. There's, I think in our time, Yosemite Sam for the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. That's the Red Raiders there. Middle Tennessee is the Raiders. They have a horse, but that horse with a lightning bolt is Middle Tennessee. We have the Virginia Cavaliers, but it looked like a Raider. There's Pirates, there's Raiders down below. There's even Knights. And what happened is the students were allowed to understand what their parameters were. In other words, they could go in any direction that they wanted, The only thing I talked to them about is we have to pay a little homage to our history, for our alumni, as well as how do we tie with what we know now. If you notice, there are no district images that we know of right now, but many people do not know the image in the upper right left-hand corner. That is the image of a blue raider from years gone by. It was even verified that in, I think about the 80s, the image was reduced to a student that would wear a tri-colonial hat, carrying a musket, which would not be allowed these days, into the stadium with sort of blue pants and so forth, imitating, I think, an evolution of that. Somewhere along the way that changed. On all of our letterhead and stuff is the blue horse, an outline, but that's just the letterhead for Horseheads, because the district's name is Horsehead. The H is there, and then obviously in the lower left-hand corner, you have the horse that was prominent, but notice, we haven't been using that horse on anything over the past 7 years, because at that time, we were told that it is a trademark violation. Nobody's really come after us yet, but if we ever were to use it, we have to seek permission and any potential financial arrangements with the owner of that trademark and copyright. You also see, like, when we started Horseheads 2030, that's the image that we've used too, but we associated that with Horseheads 2030, a student piece of work and so forth. But people have said, why do you use the horse? We're not the Horseheads horses, we're the Horseheads Blue Raiders. Even when you put down on a field Raiders, and if they're in blue, we have to sometimes explain that the area wasn't big enough to put Blue Raiders, so we did the letters, they're blue, and it's Raider, and it goes hand in hand. So that's some of the things that we talked to the students about. I want to commend the seniors because throughout all of this, nobody's intention was that other people put their own interpretation on it, that they were talking about the history of how Horseheads got its name, but that was not ever the intent by myself, I don't believe by the district, by the students, to the point that they were asking, is this the image? We know we can't use it because of this. And if I go back and forth, I'm sure everybody will agree that is the exact same image. Now, technically, you can say, oh, well, we got the orange letters. The image is pretty much the trademark. So all we're trying to do is if we aren't able to use this, what can we use? If it's another horse, that's no problem. I will tell you, with the person in here, I said bring his poster, but I didn't bring it. His name's Mario Ruggiero now. I think the students know it's been all over the thing. It's basically Zeke. Because Zeke has a blue shirt, an H, and I think Mario is known for always doing Zeke, that he used that as his campaign slogan. For us, all we want to know is how do we market the district, our athletic uniforms, our floors, our imagery to the community. Because right now, even the news media uses this horse. And we're supposed to try to stand up and say, please don't use it for our image. We sort of looked the other way, and that's what we were trying to get to. And the image was, first, we are in COVID. In 2020, we had individual graduations. In 2021, we opened the stadium and we dedicated that stadium to that class of 2021, and it will be memorialized with the letters "Just One Day." And the reason why we picked that is because for that class, they were only together one day for the whole year on graduation day. Very significant when we opened the field on that day. The intent was to try to do something nice for this senior class. We are, of course, as Blue Raiders, and have some type of image to go forward. But it's not being selected by us. It never has been. I will tell you, when that was, we did have some faulty Zoom communications like we've had over the past couple of years, and that is problematic, and we certainly understand. The problem is we had roughly about 25 to 30% of the student body actually cast a vote, and of 3 images, which I'll show you in a minute, of the 3 images, 2 were pretty much dead even, and that was just at the high school. We did not open it up to the middle school yet. We were going to, but because there was such fervor, and we listened to comments, I met with several students and validated what they were, but also tried to inform them that it wasn't the students trying to do this, but other people were giving their facts. I've tried to provide the facts and the best intent. So what happened is throughout that, this was the artwork that was presented. One image was not. The artwork in the upper left-hand corner was artwork number 1. The one in the right was artwork number 2. And the one in the bottom middle was artwork number 3. Everybody has their take on it. To the artists, they think that this is some good work. I will tell you, somebody said, well, it looks like Paul Revere, it looks like this, and so forth. So if it looks like Paul Revere and it looks like Batman, I don't know where the name of General Sullivan came, because there is no general insignia, there's nothing up there. That's basically a rider on a horse, because students were trying to pay image to the horse as well as a Blue Raider. I do believe one of our staff members who has been helpful with the kids did the lower left, because that person is very good in like artistic representation and branding, and sort of gave an image based on all of them to try to say that. We've had comments that, well, that's a man. Well, kids tried to keep it as neutral as possible. One person even came afterward and said, put a colonial ponytail on, and you can't tell if it's a male or not, and why the mask? Well, that's what the mask did. So these are everybody's interpretation. No matter what, you're not going to make everybody happy, but nobody was trying to change it from the Blue Raider. And nobody was trying to represent General Sullivan. It's quite personal for me because of the fact that my family are head in the shun. And if anybody knows the history, I do. And unfortunately, we don't go down that road because of the reason that it was the Revolutionary War. The name Blue Raider came from somewhere. It came from the past. It has an image. So for the kids, they were trying to keep some onus to that, but we had several. I think we had like 20 that the board saw. Some had a shield with a hat with crossed swords, and one of the guidance that we said is we want to try to stay away from the weaponry, especially being in school. We had a knight, but the hard part is the knight can be a Blue Raider, but people saw it more as a knight. That's where we tried to narrow it down for our book, and that's what we were trying to do. So when you look at it all, on Friday afterwards we heard a lot of information. We went back and I made an announcement to the students that we're putting it on pause, because it's really an issue for the students to develop, and if we have to, if we need to open it up more so than the artists, there's a process that can go through. But ultimately, eventually, the board has to decide in policy what's our logo, what's our image, and so forth, because that's what branding does. We do know that, and the board's already made this very clear, our main colors are blue and white. Our primary color is blue, our secondary color is white. Our sort of tertiary or trim colors are gray and black. And it sort of symbolizes the 4 classes, too. So when you do student competitions. The H is there, and nobody's looking at changing that. The question is what best reflects modern time, because I don't think you could use that historical image anymore. I think it's probably out of date, and it's wonderful that it's over at Sugar and Spice. I see it every time I go to breakfast there, but you know, it was even confirmed by other people that, yeah, we're the Blue Raiders, and these are alumni. So it's always a balancing act, and it's not meant to put one person against the other. It's meant to try to bring about pride, and that was the simple fact of what we were trying to do. We tried to explain that, and that's why we told it, so that we wouldn't be doing it at the graduation. Graduation will be a theme of class of 22, every day, all day. Because they're the first class in 3 years that have been on property every single day. We never closed. They competed, they participated every day and all day, and that's something we said and proud of as well. So that's what was going on. We hope that those that are here understand. Some of them don't have that full of an explanation, but unfortunately we were rushing, and that may have been my fault. I apologize to them. There was no intent or ill will meant. We will ask that people understand. Or if you have any questions. So at this point, it's on hold, and the board will reconvene, and we will develop, I will develop a team and a process to go forward if that's what the board wishes.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I think the only comment I have is to echo Dr. Douglas is We do need to have a consistent, and we would like to have a consistent image. That's what we talked about. I'm not making the assumption that everybody still feels the same way, but we can always revisit. And that we need to make sure we're not violating any trade dress. So that is something that we need to, as we move forward, make sure that that's not happening as well. But it would be great to get more community input and to have more options to choose from. And I do want to thank the senior art students who I know work very, very hard. You're all extremely talented. I'm nowhere near could do anything what you guys did. So for those of you, if any of you are here in the room, thank you for all you did, because you're very, very, very talented and you have a bright future ahead of you when it comes to the future. So thank you. Any other comments anybody else has? Okay, so we'll move on. Our next section is our community questions and comments. So I just want to remind you, if anybody does have a comment or a question, I'll invite you up to the podium. Please state your name and your address for the record. And you do have 3 minutes. I'm sorry that I have to do this, but we do have to keep time. It is part of our board policy. So I will keep time, and I'll give you a little notification when you are close to your time, and then I'll just ask you to wrap it up. So if anybody does want to come to the podium, I invite you to do that now.
Good evening. My name is
TJ.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is William Mosher. My address is 609 Center Street, and I am an 18-year-old registered voter and a graduating senior at Horses High School. And I am here tonight with other concerned Horses students, alumni, parents, and other people of our community. And we ask that you consider our concerns carefully. And we are not here tonight just because we oppose the Portages based on one man's desire, and how that directly affects thousands of us in this community, especially those who have called and plan to continue to call Horses home for generations, but also to consider how this entire issue has been handled by Dr. Douglas thus far, showing the way he conducts himself professionally. The issue of changing the Horses logo extends farther than just our school and mascot. It is the change that represents our entire community. Let me be clear, we are not trying to cover up, rewrite, or more whitewash history, but what Dr. Douglas is attempting to do is take an acceptable and positive logo and replace it with something that is unnecessarily, and replace that unnecessarily with something new and possibly offensive for no reason. We are the only town to celebrate the military court, which has brought us much positive attention, and the military course is such a valuable positive representation of our history that a statue of an entire pack of horses sits in front of our village hall. This staff drew the attention of the Horse Nation who even wrote a story on Horse Sense for the staff in 2015. Dr. Douglas comes along and wants to change the Horse Sense logo, but it's not just our school logo, Dr. Douglas. The Horse Sense horses are our community logo, and variations of it can be found represented everywhere locally. So the even deeper issue here is how Dr. Douglas goes about doing things and his continued methods of intimidation and deception. He treats us as if we are idiots, and as if we are powerless, and tries to intimidate us as if we are in some sort of trouble, and as though he has power over our lives and futures, so this is a blatant abuse of his power as an administrator. For this reason, many students are not here tonight. They're voicing their concerns about him interfering with their graduation, college plans, or even future years at Horse Sense if they are not graduating.
I'm going to interrupt you. So I apologize for interrupting you, but this is not meant to be a personal attack on any individual within our district. So if you have things to say specifically related to the mascot and the logo, we'd be happy to hear it. But I would ask you to refrain from the negative comments around any of our personnel within the district.
Okay. Well, then we also did try to make it clear that we understood our local history and how we found the historical logo of horses as a positive representation versus General Sullivan as a possibly negative one, and we even pointed this out. So we also find it hard to believe that this is a representation for any Native people in our community, and we believe that this logo does not speak for the student, staff, or community, or Indigenous people who all oppose the changing of the Horses logo. And we want to make sure all the board members understand this because we feel misrepresented by a lot of these things. And so we feel that as a student body, we are not being looked out for, and our student input, which has been very output and we just feel that the Horseheads logo and stalling it until next year is not a solution, and it is painfully obvious that this shows an attempt to have unlimited power and further intimidation of seats is unacceptable. And we just ask that you listen to what we are saying, and that this is not just about the logo, but about how it affects all the community members. And lastly, we would like to say that when the logos were released, it is not the artwork itself that we are opposed to. The artists did, as you guys said, did a great job. However, we believe, and it's not what we believe, art students came out saying that they were told there was strict things that they were supposed to model General Sullivan, and how even when they came out with these concerns, how they were told they were liars. So we just want that to be heard and in consideration. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Just remind you to state your name and your address and
Hello, my name is Haley Hubbard, and I live at 14 Greenview Drive. I'm the class of 2023 at Horseheads High School, and I've also come to discuss the logo change, as we know that is a popular topic at this time. I know there was an announcement made at school in the morning about the logo change. It was stated that the logo change would not be happening this year. However, I'd like to make it clear that a logo change similar to any of the 3 logos that were presented to the students should not and never happen. Before I begin, I'd also like to state that I hold no ill will towards the artists who created the logo options. As you all said, they were very, very talented, and I know all of them personally, and they worked very hard on their work. And the logo change was overall not the artist's ideas. So, while maybe not intentional, the logo change options given to the students are extremely harmful and disrespectful to Native American people. It has been said that inspiration was drawn from General Sullivan for the new logo changes. Even if the new logos were not based on General Sullivan, a man who massacred a mass amount of indigenous people, a raider is not an individual we should strive to be anyway. According to Cambridge.org, a raider is a person who enters a place illegally and usually violently and steals from it. Synonyms for the word raider include attacker, invader, thief, assailant, and many other words that one associates with negative people who perform malicious acts of hatred. Why does our school seem to believe it is okay to put people who murder, rape, and steal from communities, especially marginalized communities, on a pedestal for worship? I take extreme pride in my school and community, but I will not support a logo change that hurts or excludes groups of people. By changing the logo to anything similar of the logos presented to us, the school would not only hurt the people of Native descent, but also people of color, women, because let's face it, the logo change would simply be a white man. By doing this, the school expresses that this is the only group of people that they care about. I find it interesting that a school who likes to use the word unified to describe itself oftenly is complacent with the fact that an extremely sizable portion of their student population would be missing representation if this logo change were to go through. Additionally, do you think the taxpayers would appreciate pouring thousands of dollars into an unnecessary and hateful logo change when the money instead could be used to continue updating the school? We do not need nor want our money going to the logo change. Continued updates would be appreciated first. Overall, I find it absolutely astonishing, ridiculous, and honestly completely repulsive that a 17-year-old child can see why our community should not appreciate those who committed genocide, yes, genocide, on an entire group of people, yet those who are supposed to be wiser, caring, and diligent cannot decipher the issue in plain sight. I am here today to beg our school board, do not regress back, do not honor those who commit atrocities, because we all collectively know it is wrong, and that we can and must do better than that. As Maya Angelou once said, do the best you can until you know better, then when you know better, do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Dallin Wilcox, and I live at 69 Quail Run. I'm a graduating senior at Horseheads High School, and I'm addressing you tonight to share my thoughts and perspectives on the new logo that was proposed a few weeks ago by Dr. Douglas. I, and many others, as you can see, feel that the new logos presented are, frankly, disrespectful and don't accurately reflect the people of our new district. This is not to disparage the students who created the artwork. After all, as you have said, they are very talented. However, these guards were given strict orders on what they could or could not say. As I was not in the room, I cannot give specific quotes. I do have very, very convincing testimonials. So, but as I said, I cannot share my argument based on those. However, I will reiterate what was told me directly by Dr. Douglas. He told me that he wanted to essentially focus more on the militant history of the area forces and the bravery of the soldiers who fought here and gave criteria based upon that. The fact that we are glorifying violence in this matter is very, very concerning, especially considering that violence, extreme violence in public and graphic ways is increasing in this country. Why should we glorify this violence and twist it into something that should be venerated? As a student of a high school in America, I fear for my life every time I enter this building. Why should I want to worship a mascot that embodies that sense of violence? This is a school. Violence should be the furthest thing away from this building, and especially not in our minds constantly whenever we think of the school. What's more is my understanding that this horse has been the mascot in our logo for decades, and there hasn't been any pushback against it. This is mostly due to the simplicity of the logo, and because of how easily it can represent us as a district and town. Simply put, it is much easier to represent a diverse district of people who come from every walk of life with an androgynous animal than it is to represent those same people with the image of an imposing, powerful white man. Our town is named Horseheads, after all. What would be a better mascot for us than a horse, despite our name being the Raider? Recently, we were given an award for being inclusive of all people. This was unveiled at our most recent pep rally. Why should we sully that reputation with a new logo that is, frankly, unwanted and completely unnecessary? I suggest leaving the logo as is. And if there truly is an issue of copyright, then we should ask students to recreate the logo in a new fashion, a modern one, that represents what they think, not what some man told them that they should interpret the logo as. I believe that this would appease almost everyone on both sides of this issue. Thank you for your time. Good night.
Thank you. Anybody else in the community?
My name is Thomas Schreier. I live at 809 Mill Road in North New York. I'd like to focus on something slightly different about the logo, starting with something that we learned in kindergarten. In kindergarten, we learn to apologize when we do something wrong and own up to our own actions. The ability and willingness to do these things are one of the most important values for everyone to feel, especially those in a position of power and authority. However, that is not what we saw during the whole mascot kerfuffle. The proposed logo change was a blatant glorification of a white colonizer that killed thousands upon thousands of Native Americans without remorse. This is extremely offensive to Native Americans, and although some Native Americans, like Dr. Douglas himself, may not believe it may come off as offensive, they do not get to speak for the entirety of the Native American community. After the logo change was put on hold, instead of doing the logical thing and apologizing for proposing an offensive idea, the student body was given nothing but doggies and reflections. The Board of Education was blamed, the student artists were blamed, and even teachers were blamed for imposing their ideas on students, which could not be further from the truth. The student body was even told that it was they who took it offensively. But if the entire student body, and many alumni, teachers, and staff, saw how the proposed logos were offensive and not okay, the logical conclusion is that the logos are offensive and not okay. There is a difference between the acknowledgement and glorification of our history, and General Sullivan is not one who should be glorified as a school logo or mascot. The student body, but more importantly the Native American community, is owed an actual apology for the offensive logos that were proposed, because even if they were stopped from becoming the logo this year, there is a likely chance that the concept will be tried again and again with each class of students that are becoming significantly less vocal than my own. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Okay. Thank you for all of you who came out. We appreciate listening to what you had to say. And as you heard, we will be revisiting what our next steps are related to the logo and the mascot for Horseheads. But we do need to have a consistent legal image that we can use moving forward. So we will regroup, and there'll be more communications that will come out as we get into next year, school year. But thank you for for everything that you had to say. I appreciate you coming out.
First of all, I want to commend all the students. I think everyone that spoke, I also took time to speak with. As we announced last Friday, I tried to exemplify that and apologize on behalf of myself to the students. That was never the intent. And that's what was done. Again, the history is the history no matter what. And I wasn't here for that. I do recognize it.
Good evening, members of the board and Forsets community. State competitions for our athletes have concluded with great performances from all our participating athletes. 18 of said athletes also participated in their college recognition ceremony. The music wings concluded their last concerts and performances. The Pops concert was last Saturday and everyone had a great time. The theme this year was Color Our World. And seniors were honored at the Pops concert as well as the respective last band and orchestra concerts. The Music Hall and GRP would like to thank the board and community for supporting their comeback this year. The senior class participated in a sunset cruise on Seneca Lake last weekend, and it was a huge success and a lot of fun. The senior prom was also a huge success with students enjoying food, dancing, and the decorations. The senior class is looking forward to graduating next week and thank everyone who supported them these last 4 years. The sophomore class had a wonderful turnout for our first ever powder duff volleyball game between the freshmen and sophomore boys. The sophomore boys team were the grand champions and they raised over $300 for the Ukrainian fund through the Ukrainian church in Elmira Heights. The freshman class participated in the Adopt a Highway program for their service project a few weeks ago, cleaning up a stretch of Old Ithaca Road, and they plan to make this an annual tradition. They also had fun at the powder duff volleyball game versus the sophomore class last week. Mrs. Thompson and the officers of the National Honor Society visited Elcor's dementia unit to deliver items purchased for the residents for the NHS Spring Service Project. Among the items delivered were three therapy stuffed pets, that's a tongue twister, a lifelike baby doll, 6 books, 10 fidget objects, and 75 colorful blankets. They also visited each of the 65 resident rooms and hung mobiles of origami art that they made to brighten the decor and cheer up the residents. Peg Smith, former Gardner Road employee, and her daughters Tina, Tanya, and Tracy, all former Forsets alum, assisted and helped to facilitate the project. The residents were thrilled to have the teens come and shower them with attention. Student Council celebrated the end of the year by handing out ices to students after the bell rung on the last day of school, and would like to say good luck to our outgoing seniors and enjoy your summer to everybody. Now, this is my final meeting for the year, and I would like to take a moment to say a few thank yous. Thank you to the students, first of all, for allowing me to be your voice on the board this year, and allowing me to deliver on the promise I made to myself to encourage student involvement in the wider Forsets community. I am so proud of each and every one of you and what you have accomplished this year. I would like to thank my teachers and my grandmother for encouraging me to take on this opportunity. You all mean the world to me. Especially thank you to Catherine Cornelion for being my alternate and right-handed woman this year on the board. And finally, thank you to the Board of Education for welcoming me with open arms and keeping me safe all year. I can't wait to see what comes next for Forsets. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Caitlin. You did a fabulous job this year, and yes, your first meeting was a little scary, right? So I'm happy that we were able to keep each other safe.
Yeah, I would call it the word.
Yes. I think you did a great job. You, along with many of our previous student reps, you are involved in so many things. You bring so many different perspectives, and you're really busy. And so the fact that you're able to take time out of your busy schedule to participate in the board meetings every month, we really appreciate it. I think you have a bright future, and I told you at the candidates forum, I think you have a future as host of Jeopardy in the future because you are really good in that environment. But thank you very much, and congratulations on all of your achievements this year, because I see your name all the time for all of the accolades that you've been getting, and so thank you. And also thank you to Catherine. You know, it was great. It was great to have you. You were able to participate in a couple of the board meetings, and also was awesome in the candidates forum. I think the two of you have an absolutely bright future ahead of you, and I wish you all the luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our presentation. So with that, we'll turn it over to Mrs. Earl, because Mrs. Earl is going to
She's like
announce,
looking at us.
who our new representatives are going to be for next year. Do you want to come up to the microphone? Yes. All right. That way everybody can hear. Go
So this is Mario Ruggiero and Tatiana Kapp, who will be our board representatives for next year. Tatiana will be the board representative and Mario will be our alternate. So.
Great. Maria. Yeah.
Can I say something real quick?
Absolutely.
Congratulations, guys, and I hope that your time is more boring than mine is.
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And we look forward to working with you next year. So the pleasure is ours. All right, turning it over to our superintendent report.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, most of my report obviously was already centered at the beginning, but we do have a couple things. Graduation is coming, and I keep looking every other hour because it keeps changing. Right now, we had 5 days of straight rain, Tuesday through Saturday, for next year, but it's like windows. All of a sudden it changed Thursday, Friday, Saturday are sunny. So as we know, we're outside, we don't really have an inside environment that can hold everybody, and we're trying to make it so that it's open for everybody. The setup will be exactly the same as it was last year, both home and away. We settled upon that, and our first blush at graduation is the first day is Wednesday at 6 o'clock. What we will do is we will sort of confirm Monday night at 11 o'clock from Joe Barris. I know he watches because we placed a lot of pressure on him. He came through great last year. Right now, Wednesday's 50% thunder and lightning storms. We don't know if it's heat related. But a lot of things will change. So Monday night at 11 o'clock, we'll watch. As long as he's saying it's clear, most likely we'll give the thumbs up Tuesday right after his noon broadcast. If by chance we have to move it, we move it 1 day at a time, and we follow the same thing. So Tuesday at noon, if we had to call it, it would be off on Wednesday and then go to Thursday. And then Wednesday at noon, we'd call it for Thursday, and likewise until we get to Saturday. If by chance it gets to Saturday, the time is to be determined because we have to do it Saturday, rain or shine. So we would try to pick the best weather window, but it usually doesn't rain all day. But in June, you don't usually get this much weather. But right now, we're waiting to see. So if everybody can pay attention, I know Mr. Earl's been sending this out. Students, we are going to try to have that type of graduation for you that is right at sunset so that everybody can head off and go on to their future plans, but also hopefully have a wonderful night with family and friends. So please pay attention to that as we go forward on graduation. In regards to athletics, talked to the board a little in regards to the possibility of looking at some additional teams at the modified level to try to minimize cuts, but we don't know where they're at yet. But they will be getting a report, and we'll be talking about that a little more in our July reorganizational meeting. In addition, one of the biggest things on everybody's mind has been safety and security. One of the hard parts about being a superintendent is, and an administrator in school is you don't get to focus on just one issue. Every issue is an issue, and you have to spend a little time in every piece of evaluation. But safety and security have been the most pressing issue. We have Mr. McGrane over here, who is a wonderful SRO. He comes in and helps out at we all wanted to be safe, huh, Catherine? throughout the year. So we brought him. And then what happens is you hear a lot about SROs. We have 3 SROs, one at the elementary for the 4 elementary schools, one at the middle school for middle school and intermediate, and one at the high school. And the high school also sort of balanced out a little at Center Street because they're so close. But in light of everything, how can you make it safer? We are going to have to be dealing with convenience versus safety. And I think everybody understands convenience is not something that will trump safety. When we look at it, you are looking at an entryway that will be all one point of entry. And you're seeing it built. It'll be open for the start of next year, but most of our schools have it. We are going to have to look at tightening up who comes in the building, who is, even if you have a meeting in the building, are you able to be on school property because we go through a security check, which is known as a Vader or a Raptor check off your state ID. That is something we're exploring for each building. And then a lot of the times, if you need to bring in a lunch or that, our people will help you at the door, but we'll take it and we'll probably say thank you and we'll get it to them. But we are going to start minimizing as much as possible people coming in and where people can go out at all of our buildings. That will be inconvenient. It's just like, you know how we have, for seniors and juniors, you know how we have the junior parking lot, we come in that back door? What if you have to walk all the way around? It's inconvenient, isn't it? But each door that's opened in the morning that's unattended is a security risk. Our safety team just met the other day, and we've charged them with coming up with a much larger structure of trying to minimize that. So please be aware. But one of the biggest things we can do is we've asked the chief at Horseheads PD if there's the availability of additional SROs. That can be the hard part because you want good people. Like, I'd love to duplicate Mr. McGrain 4 ways for each of the elementary schools. But the chief is looking at people that are retired that are interested in doing that. He believes he can secure 1, so we pretty much are asking the board, would you consider 1? But I'd like to know if the board would also consider, it's a money thing, but we'll make it work in the budget somehow. That if he's able to secure 3, that we officially try to start the next year placing 1 SRO at every single building. Doesn't, like intermediate middle school is 1 building. But every building would have an SRO, and we will rotate them around because honestly, the SRO program is what I did my doctorate on. It's not about policing, it's about making connections and really having places where people can become informed, talk about, and also share information. And I think our people do that very well. But it goes to the biggest thing. It's like, I don't know if it was Tom or Donald that talked about safety coming to school, you feel unsafe. That's unfortunate. We want to try to take that away the best we can. I don't know if we can ever take it away now that everything that's happened. But if we can, we want people to know that if you hear of somebody, you say something, get to anybody. We'll try to protect you and keep you anonymous as much as possible. That's the one thing we know, and I said this at the March of Life, is that of all school-related violence issues of mass shootings, almost every one of them has been forewarned or foretold either through the internet, through visual, or through conversation with somebody just prior to it happening or even in series. So sometimes, even if you think something, the worst thing that happens is we get the SROs and we talk to them. But then see something, hear something, think something, worry about something, get it to one of the administrators or the SROs, get it to our anonymous line. There isn't one of those things that we don't address. Just like if a student writes me, I email them back and I meet with them with another administrator. Just like if a parent or a grandparent does, we do the same thing. That's our obligation. It's our number 1 sacred duty. So that's what we want to talk to. How does the board feel about that? Am I on solid ground to go forward even though we'll change the budget a little?
Absolutely.
I do believe, I anticipated that, but I also anticipate that the community and the students would probably appreciate it too. So those are some of the things that are coming in the near future. We do have some things coming up for the summer. Are you able to talk now? Good. Mr. Gill had a dental procedure today, and I wouldn't want to have it either. So But on the curriculum side, for some summer help for our students that are most in need, Mr. Gill's going to talk about that as we try to address some of the 3-year lag, and we're trying to do it over 3 years. He's going to talk about that, and then I'll finish up with some capital construction discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. So just briefly to recall that we were able to title grant fund money to offer summer assistance or summer learning to our student body from our K through 6 programming. So similar to a program we had run about 6-7 years ago now. We offered a program during the summer through GSD BOCEs and grants and money as well. So we were bringing back that program. We invited yesterday 230 students between K and 6 as identified by the teams in each of the elementary buildings in the unit school. We have the staffing right now to support that, which includes being able to do separate RTI and math interventions and tuitions. And some TA support as well. That's a Scanlon. Scanlon just came on board as the principal for it to help with the logistics and moving things forward. So excited about the progress that we're making there. Should have some more information next week about where we land as far as how many students. We're just getting a good number because we are providing transportation through this grant. So that is huge. It's not something we know if we continue because it is grant funded. But operationally, if this program is successful, it's something that we should most definitely look to continue in the future. Back in 2015-16, they might have only had 8 teachers, which is fine. It's still servicing about 100 kids that are in some needs to support them in the summer. That'd be well spent money to help with progression and summer learning. So that's where it stands right now. More information. Any questions? If I add one more thing about the curriculum. As you know, summer curriculum is a huge part of our work. We will see an update on that coming out as well. We do have dozens of teachers that will be in this summer doing a variety of different tasks and preparing and looking at their curriculum and their instructional practice moving into next year. As Tom says, thinking about some of the knowledge gaps that students might have. I can't emphasize enough something I've said from this podium before about how there's some things that our students have gained that we don't measure in our standardized knowledge. There's knowledge gaps because of the time period, but there's certainly a resilience and rigor. The way they approach their learning is very different, and we are having those conversations as well. Those are important ones to have. They move very quickly as their staff into paperless, something that's been at the college level for many years. And something we will continue here through the campus system. I just want to make sure that we have some knowledge things that we have to look at. We have some 3-grade assessments that we can look at and see what the knowledge gaps might have been, as well as our first-timer regions have been operating for quite some time. But I always want to stand firm that there are some skill sets that were learned that we still haven't recovered. And after any pandemic or any major incident in history like this, we always see great innovation. We always see great things come from that generation because of the way they were affected differently from previous. So very, very positive outlook there and what we can do at the same time, acknowledging that there's some knowledge sets that we should look at through the assessments that we have. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. In addition, we have a lot of construction going on across the district. We are trying to work with the county with summer cohesion, make that happen. Big Flats Taffy, all in locations, but as well as the regional summer schools that will be at the middle school. But virtually almost every other campus will be starting to shutter in the next 5 days of next week as major construction. You will be seeing our transportation centers sort of dispersed out among the community schools, where we have security cameras on our buses because the transportation center is going through a full repavement of Sayre Street Extension Road, as well as the bus garage that has been woefully long overdue. So there's a lot of things going on, but that's to try to bring our first project to a close by December. And we are gearing up on the second project that was recently approved on December 7th by the community. And that it deals with the elementary schools, the stadium, the high school, south wing, as well as some other paving and roofing issues. And that timeline is becoming clearer because we cannot do all the construction at once at each school. Our main focus is on making sure the elementaries are done no matter what, because even with inflation and rising costs, that is going to have some impact on this budget because this project was developed before inflation started to hit, basically. So we're hoping that the curve will be on the backswing by the time we get to the latter part of the projects, and that it will self-correct itself. But there will be some budget challenges potentially in the near future. So I've asked Hunt and Welker to come and give a board an update on that as soon as possible. So ladies and gentlemen, hopefully that has given you a lot of information, and let's just keep pressure on Joe Barris to get the sun on Monday. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. So moving on to the board reports, just before we get into the audit committee and policy committee, I just wanted to present, so this is Shayla's last board meeting. I wanted to thank Shayla for her 3 years of service to our board and to our entire district. It was wonderful having your perspectives and having you part of the board. As tradition within our board, when we do have a board member that leaves, we like to have something kind of stay behind as a memory and a reflection of that board member and their interest. And we purchase books to be put into our school libraries. And we do that based on interest and passion of that board member. So we actually have a few books, and these were chosen by Shayla. Purification of the Heart. These books will be put in our libraries, and each book, Shayla, will be a dedication. Shayla will sign the inside of the book, and it will be her gift on behalf of the board back to the district. So thank you, Shayla, and Greg, to see you at the end of the meeting. Okay, so let's turn it over to the audit committee.
Thank you, Christine. We met a couple days ago. We had both the internal and the external auditor in attendance. We reviewed in quite a bit of detail the internal audit risk assessment. We'd seen it a couple months ago. It was just a draft at that point. We had this was the final version, which would be for board approval later on the financial report. We also went over the corrective action plan, and many of the items have already been corrected, and a few others will kind of get done over the summer and no later than September 30th. And then we kind of addressed the extra classroom activities, internal audit risk assessment in addition, and the internal auditor had focused on the high school marching band and yearbook during her review. And a number of items were listed and noted, and the Katie and the whole administrative team will be working on a corrective action plan, which we would see probably in the fall.
Thank you. Policy committee?
Policy committee met on June 2nd. We discussed and present to you tonight for first reading policies on diversity, equity, and inclusion, advanced college placement, and textbook comprehensive program selection and adoption. We also reviewed our existing policy on library material selection and found it to be appropriate in its current form, so we will let that lie. But we bring those 3 policy drafts for first reading tonight.
Thank you. Moving on to our finance items for action, we have 8.02 through 8.21. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Any comments or discussion on any of these items?
On 8.10, the time and materials bid, in each of the contracts, the statement says the rates are guaranteed to June 30th, 2022. So my question is, if they're guaranteed to June 30th, could they change on July 1?
Katie, is that the statement that if you don't accept it by this many days, then it resets?
Well, it doesn't say that,
I
so
know.
that's
Yeah.
why I'm asking.
No, it's a good question, absolutely.
think that's how reading it, that's how I assume
Yeah.
it, because it says the bid was awarded as follows, and then it says guaranteed to 6/30/22. So it says if we don't accept it by then it changes, but if we accept it and sign off on it.
Shouldn't it say that?
Right, here's what I'll propose. If you vote on this and approve it, I want an addendum on there that says, if it's what you're saying, these prices are only guaranteed till 22, we will rescind the vote. But that has to be put within your approval, just within that. So if we have to, move that out. I'm 99% sure that is, our bid is good up until this date, because whenever we do bids, like for the capital project, you have 30 days to either approve this contract. In ours, it's 90 days, otherwise the bid is null and void. But to get that answer, I'm pretty sure it's there, but to make sure that if it's not that way as we're saying it, then this is not approved, and we pull it back.
Okay, that's fine.
Doug, can you help us with how we would amend that?
Sure, Brian, and Dan, we just need to amend your motion so that addendum.
8.10.
To make the notation that was listed before, so.
This is only approved by the board if that was just holding of the bid date, but not to reset the bid price to a new higher number come July 1st, 2022. You understand that, correct, Katie? Does all the board understand what we're asking to amend?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have that, Candy?
Yes, I do.
Would that help, Mr.?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, clarify.
Any other comments or questions?
Okay, on 817 with the corrective action plan.
Yep.
In the section that deals with staff members making personal purchases and then using their personal credit card, the auditor, the way I wrote it, the club should consider using the extra classroom activities credit card instead of a personal credit card for online purchases. My first question is, does such a thing exist, the extra classroom activities credit card?
Yes,
And everybody's aware of that?
yes.
Okay.
I like that, direct back and forth.
Well, I
Thank
mean,
you.
it seems like if they're aware of it, then they should have been using it. I
Yes,
don't-
my understanding is we rewrote the policy around the use of the credit card very strictly. It's an internal control, so it may just be a matter of convenience to use a personal card.
So is it difficult to get that card? Like, is there time sensitive, like you have to?
It's a process with the central treasurer and the business office to communicate what you'd like to purchase. The card is housed in the business office. It's a safeguard, so it's just a matter of communicating with the central treasurer and with the business office with the order you'd like to place, and we're happy to assist.
Okay.
And the real issue is that any of these types of purchases should have went through a student vote and or no.
Hi, as a posties employee, to avoid the appearance of impropriety, I'm going to abstain on 8.07 and 8.12.
I have a question. Slightly later. So, Katie, I think you'll probably be able to answer this pretty easily, but my mathematical challenges got me stuck here. So on I was just wondering about 8.19 and 8.20 and kind of how they work together. And what I'm assuming is 8.19, the transfer from the unassigned fund balance of the $500,000 would take place first, and then, kind of at the close of the books, anything left in excess of the 4% limit would go to the capital reserve. We just don't know what that is now, but it would just be equated to on a percentage basis, right?
So once we finalize the year and we get ready to close our books, we know exactly what the excess amount over 4% is. Step one would be to look at the ARS reserve and selected amount up to that 500,000
Yeah.
in reserve, and then anything left of that 4% will be placed in the capital reserve.
Okay, that's how I interpreted it, just wanted to make sure it's right. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of 8.02 through 8.21 with the amendment on 8.1, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And any abstentions, other than we have the abstention on 8.07 and 8.12. Okay. Moving on to our personnel items for action, we have 9.02 through 9.05. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments or questions?
Is this open for public now?
No. Any comments or questions?
On 9.03, the resolution for the temporary hiring, I just noticed it's limited specifically to the facilities, and I think generally it's broader. So was that intentional that it's limited to facilities? Or does it need to be
It
broader?
is right now because
Okay.
the organizational meeting will be our first one, then we broaden it up from July to September.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments or questions? I will be abstaining on item A, since I have a relative in that list on A5. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And then any other abstentions besides mine on A? Okay. So welcome to our new hires who are approved this evening. So thank you very much for your desire to come work for Horseheads, and we wish you the best of luck into the upcoming school year. And then also retirements. We did have a retirement announcement in here, and I'm sorry, I'm scrolling really quick so I can get the Mr. Buckley and also Mrs. Cunningham. So congratulations to both of them. And then to all of our retirees. We've had announcements of retirements throughout the year that would come about throughout the year, but then also at the end of the school year. So congratulations on your next phase of your life, and I hope that you enjoy every single day. And thank you for all of your service and commitment to our district for as many years as you've been a part of the district. So thank you, everybody. Okay. Moving on to our miscellaneous items for action, we have 10.02 through 10.04. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments or questions related to these items? Lauren?
On 10.04, does the district have anybody equally capable to provide this service?
At this time, she is, the person that we're contracting with right now has a longstanding work in this area. We are just starting to embark on it at the administrative level and then moving forward with the training. So at this point, no.
Okay, and do we have any mechanism to determine, I mean, I see there's 2 equal payments being made, so do we have any mechanism that says maybe it didn't work and we don't want the second half of the program?
So the 2 equal payments have to do with the first 3 weeks and the second 3 weeks. And the staff and the students that are involved in this program are in the program for the extended school year for special education needs. So we will look at the progress that is occurring against the goals that we set for the students and the staff, and then make that determination for the second half.
So you could, in fact, recommend to the board not to pay the second?
If we have concerns, yes.
I don't know, you know my theory on consultants, and at least there's an opportunity to address and maybe great that it's not working. That hasn't always existed in the past. And we paid money up front and never gotten the results that were promised. There was no accountability. So, I guess that's all I have to say.
This is training that we're doing that the teachers carry through for the remainder of the school year. So although it's only a 6-week, there are opportunities to see that extension throughout the next whole school year within our classrooms.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of 10.02 through 10.04, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions?
I'll abstain on 10.04.
Moving on to second reading of our board policies, we have 11.01 through 11.04. Can I have a motion, please?
Second.
Any comments or questions on any of these four policies? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? And then we have 3 board policies for first reading, no action tonight, 12.01, 12.03. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the policy committee on these 3 policies? Okay, I'll put them up for action at the next meeting. I'd like to open it up to board member comments. If anybody has any comments before we close the meeting.
So it's probably never a good idea for a board member to single out an individual school. But it's kudos to this school, so it's nothing bad. And maybe it's because of what I thought, but I was driving by Ridge Road School the other day, and it just happened to be when a lot of students were coming out of the school, and they all had homemade American flags in their hand for Flag Day. It was on Flag Day. And then they paraded through the playground area, and then they were walking along the sidewalk. So I thought it was nice to see civics and patriotism. And I'm sure all the other schools did something along those lines. I just happened to see what was going on at Ridge Road. And then again this morning I'm driving by Ridge Road, and the school is outside around the flagpole. So I don't know what the lesson was, but the flag looked like it was about to be raised. So being a history teacher, I like to see the patriotism and the civics. So.
Start a field day for
Oh,
all the others.
okay.
So, I wanted to kind of comment, the end of the year is a particularly busy time, as we all know, in schools, with so many different activities, field day, special events, honors assemblies, awards assemblies, etc. And, the teachers and the staff and the administrators go above and beyond in putting all those together. As the parents of now 4 kids in the school system, I go to a lot of those, and I just appreciate that they're always so well done, and people put all the time and effort into trying to make the end of the year special. And so I wanted to just convey my thanks for that. And then secondly, and I know it was discussed at length earlier, but it wasn't sort of an open comment period at the time, but I found it particularly moving and meaningful to hear from the students who spoke about the mascot. And I think there are times when we sort of have to stop and think about things that have just always been accepted or been a certain way, and then look at them from a different perspective. And I'm constantly educated myself. I mean, we all have seen what has happened in the sports world, the Cleveland Indians changing their name, the Washington Redskins changing their name, and I think it was really, putting aside all the other issues associated with that process, I am thankful that the students came and shared their view and helped us see their perspective, and I think we will most certainly continue to keep that in mind as we go forward. At least I will as a board member. So thank you for that.
I don't do the microphone. I'll use my teacher voice. I just want to reiterate what Mr. Christmas just said. Bravo to all of you. It takes a lot of courage to stand up in front of this group and share your thoughts. And so true, we do. We need to start thinking differently. And I appreciate those who came, and some of them have left. So if you would pass that on to your classmates, and we will take this very seriously. Thank you. And I want to thank Caitlin and wish her the very best. And kind of a end of the year thank you to staff and teachers. First year back, I'm sure a lot of adjustments had to be made and extra work on your part. And just thank you.
Just a couple things. I just want to echo. I love when we have board meetings and we actually have members from the community that come and speak and give us their opinions and give us their thoughts. I think it shows, whether it's positive or constructive or whether we agree or we don't agree, it just shows that there's passion in the community, there's passion in our student body, and I think that's so important. This is the format to be able to do that. This is the format to be able to get your voice directly to the board, and I think it's really important. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for everybody who did speak. These are my favorite board meetings when we do have that interaction. So thank you. Also, to echo Mary, I do want to thank our entire staff. This was an exciting year. Everybody came back, right? We were back every day. We were back all day. We got to have all the activities, all the extracurriculars, and that was really, really important. We had a lot of successes in the district this year. I'd like to thank Mr. Dete. We had a great sports tribute, and I could say just because I was there, so I was able to witness it. I know we've had a lot of great other end-of-year activities in the music department as well. Thank you to everybody that goes above and beyond every single day. I know you all work, just obviously your day doesn't end when you leave the classroom or you leave the building. And I get that, I know that, and so just thank you. I hope that everybody has a wonderful summer. I know there's going to be still a lot of activity happening this summer with the project, with all the curriculum work, but I hope everybody is able to at least have some downtime to be able to enjoy it with your families, whether you're going on vacation or you're doing staycations at home. I hope everybody stays safe and has a wonderful summer. And also, I am not able to be at graduation because I had a pre-planned vacation with my family. So I'm not able to be at graduation, and so I just want to lastly congratulate all the seniors. You have had your entire career here. For those of you who have had your entire career here in Horseheads, some of you may have transferred in. But I hope you walk away from Horseheads really remembering your time here fondly and taking, everything that you've learned, from your classmates, from your teachers, from the community, and you hold Horseheads fondly within your hearts as you move on. For the graduation speeches that I have done over the past couple of years, I always end by saying, as you go out into the world, remember to always choose kindness. That is so important to me. It's so important to my family. It's so important to the world right now. And no matter what you do, and no matter where your views are on any stance, just always remember to be kind. I think that is just so important. So congratulations to all our seniors. I think the future is bright. We have so many talented and smart and just exceptional students coming out of Horseheads, and I'm just excited to see what you're all going to do. So thank you for everything that you've contributed to this district. And we have an update from Katie. So
I apologize for blanking on the bid, but I have the hamster back on my wheel now. This memo is to renew the bid that we did last June. So the document that was attached on page 2 and 3, that was the bid that we had awarded last year. And the memo from our purchasing agent for tonight is to take advantage of a renewal option of those rates into next year. So same rates for another year. Okay. Lots of bids, so no bid, and we have good rates. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, so we do have to, once we adjourn, we will be adjourning to executive session. We do have some other things to discuss related to personnel issues. So we will adjourn to executive. We will not come back into public session. So I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn to executive session. session.
If I may, can I voice one more question?
I'm sorry, we have one spot for comment.
Well, it didn't exactly pertain to, and I didn't want to get cut off as Will did.
We can talk privately after the meeting. It's not appropriate at the meeting right now. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed nay. Any abstentions? Okay.
I'll avoid the second.